Good morning, everyone. Welcome on in. This is a somber topic, but it's one we all deal with. Hang on a second. Yeah, there we go. Sorry about that. Good morning, everyone. So this is a tough topic, but it's one we all have to face. Yesterday I got the news. I was expecting it, but it doesn't make it any easier. I got news that our family dog of 4 years passed away from cancer. It was hard. It was a hard phone call to receive. It's going to be a hard thing to tell more of my family members, my bros overseas in Asia. I'm not going to ruin his last days over there on his vacation. I'm going to wait until he gets here to tell him. But the family dog passed away early from cancer. 4 years is young, even for a Great Dane. And there's going to be a little in memoriam slideshow at the end of this video, but it gives me an opportunity to talk about grief. Unfortunately, loss and bereavement is going to happen for anyone. And how you handle it is an important part of life. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what you can do, what you shouldn't do. Maybe in doing that, it'll provide myself a little catharsis and hopefully one of y'all a little bit of advice. So in the darkest days of the pandemic, for those of you who have been longtime members of my audience, you already know what 2020 was like for me. It was hard. In the first 6 months of 2020, I dealt with a rugby-induced concussion, losing my ability to go to the gym due to lockdowns, which for me is a huge part of my mental well-being. I had a really bad breakup at the time with a girlfriend that we weren't right for each other. Job was not going well. You know, I wasn't in danger of getting fired because I was an essential employee, but going through the pandemic as an essential employee, it was fucking scary. And through all of that, I was also losing my father. My dad passed away at the age of 58 due to cancer. It was an incredibly rare form of cancer, about a 1 in a million type kind of thing. And I don't talk about this often, but it's relevant. It's germane to today's topic. I'm not begging for sympathy, but these are the facts. My father was a great man, and cancer took him way too soon. I'm very grateful for the time that I had, but I lost him in June of 2020. So the first 6 months of that year were brutal, to say the least. And one of the last gifts my father gave my mother, who did a lot of caretaking. My father, when he was diagnosed with this extremely rare variant of cancer, the doctors gave him maybe a couple of months to live. My dad fought it for over a year. He got it in late 2018, and finally passed away in June of 2020. So almost 2 years. And you know, talking about this is never easy, but it reminds me of what a fighter he was and how we should all approach life. That was his third bout with cancer. So he had a winning fucking record against cancer. And, you know, in his first bout with it, he almost lost his leg. And, you know, then it would have been a captain. That would have been 1993. That would have been, he would have been 31 at that point, dealing with cancer. That it's almost 100% sure. In fact, I'm 100% sure it was his service that caused it. He was a Gulf War veteran. God knows what horrific thing he got exposed to over there in Turkey and Iraq. But that whole region can, with the exception of the Kurds, that whole region can go to hell. Saddam, I hope Saddam's burning in hell. I really can't stand that guy. But he was this close to getting medically discharged. And were it not for his inner strength, and God bless the doctors at Walter Reed Medical Center there in Bethesda, Maryland, that helped fix him up there in 1993. He managed to keep his leg, and he served for his country for another 21 years until 2014. He served this country for 29 years, and I don't talk about this often because I don't want to make it seem as if I've come from privilege of any kind, but he made general officer, and he did that through hard work. And a lot of the lessons I try to teach you, frankly, are nothing new. A lot of them are things he taught me. Because of that, talking about the way, watching him slowly pass away, it's hard. It's just not easy. But the last thing he did was a gift to my mother and to us as a family. He's got this little Great Dane puppy from a local place and brought him home. Called him Atlas. This is the nickname for Atlas. My dad was certainly a lot more conservative than I was politically, not to get into this, but was a fan of Atlas Shrugged, and also a fan of the Greek legend of Atlas. It's a good name for a big dog, as Great Danes get, as a male Great Dane. So he grew up big, he grew up strong, and I was the one who, because at this point my dad was far too sick to pick him up, I was the one who picked him up with my mom. And I held him in my arms. I drove the car home while my mom held him in her arms. And in those first few weeks, I had to go back to Texas to work. My mom was in Washington. That's 2,000 miles away. It's more than 2,000 miles away. So the Atlas was a big part in helping fill the hole that my dad left behind. It's an impossible task, but God, if any pet did it, Atlas did. Helped my mom with the grief, with the loss, the sorrow, that and her faith, of course. And my mom's an incredibly strong woman for having to handle that. Lo and behold, appreciate that, Dan. Grandpa passed away in 2020. My condolences. All of my grandparents passed away in 2011, 2012, 2018, and 2019, respectively. So it was hard to lose. 2018, lost my grandmother on my dad's side. 2019, lost my grandfather on my dad's side, or I might have that backwards. 2020, lost my dad. So I still remember, here's a testament to my dad's strength, was my dad was sick with cancer at this point. He's 6'4". He was a Division II college athlete. He played basketball in college. And by this point, when he delivered a eulogy, as he was so good at doing, he would speak. I mean, when you make general in the military, you have to know how to speak very well. And when he delivered the eulogy, he was sick. He was very, very, very underweight. And he still delivered it very proudly. And a lot of the words he said then about the loss of his own father reverbed very strongly in 2020 when we lost him. And then in 2021, early 2021, when after the pandemic, Arlington National Cemetery opened up and he was interred there. that was one of the hardest days I've had in my life. And through that, it taught me a valuable lesson in a way that confirmed everything my dad had said with the loss of my grandfather, but had also taught me in a way that you can only learn from real life. I read Siddhartha recently by Hermann Hesse, and it talks about this. Some experiences you truly must have firsthand. Secondhand wisdom, the idea is that secondhand information can teach you knowledge. Firsthand information gives you wisdom. And with the topic of death and of loss, I now have both. So, what to pull from this? When you lose a family member, there is going to be a lot of emotion, always. What is important is that you remain, especially if you're a man, okay? This is the role of a man. This is what my father taught me, and he was damn right. It is your responsibility to be strong, to hold back the tears, and let out your emotions at some other time, but to be the shoulder that others may cry on. So what I did for my mom at the morgue. That's what I did for my mom at Arlington. And at least on the phone anyway, it's what I had to do for her last night. And it's never easy. But it's important to do that because that is, it's not just a, oh, be manly, be stoic kind of thing, but it is a sign of love. It is a sign of caring, that you are willing to set aside your own emotions and tend to the emotions of the people who are dealing with it in a way you can't even understand. Yes, I lost my father, but my mom lost the love of her life. They had been married happily since 1990. They had been married for 30 years. And I'm blessed to have gotten 25. And that's the other thing I want to drive home, because this is the other thing that my dad always talked about and talked about in funerals. And it's probably a lesson, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I've learned very well. With stoicism, properly comes gratitude. As opposed to asking why, that is not our position in this life. I mean, I know the answer why from my father. It's a rare form of cancer that was caused by his service. So I blame Saddam for that mostly. But it's not one to ask God about. You know, if you believe in God, as I do, that's one that will be revealed upon your own death or my own death. But as opposed to sitting there and asking why and hence making yourself more miserable and more helpless because you can't control that, the way to take control is to remember the good times and have gratitude. I lost my father when I was 25 years old. I have friends who lost their fathers at 15 or even younger, or even worse, their father was absent in their lives. I can't imagine how rough that must be. So I'm never mad or upset that I didn't get more time, because I got a better 25 years than most people get 60 years or 50 years, or however long you'd like to pick. And in the same way, it applies to Atlas. Atlas did his job, his whole job on this entire planet, as is most pets' job, is to put smiles on people's faces. But Atlas in particular, his job was to fill the hole that my dad left behind because cancer took him. And Atlas did just that. Unfortunately, Atlas too got afflicted by cancer. There was an inoperable tumor in his throat. And he passed away. Move the camera over a bit. The light's starting to come in at just the right angle that's getting a glare. My dad is an alcoholic. It is like he's dead some moments. Okay. I'll talk about this then. My grandfather was an alcoholic, and it caused a lot of family damage on my dad's side. My dad never gave up in him. My grandfather eventually kicked it and went sober, went teetotal. It's never easy, but Ohana runs deep, right? It's family. You never give up on him. You know, you can't stop him from fucking up. You can't stop him from making mistakes. But when he genuinely comes to you, says, I want to get sober, help him. As for Atlas, he protected my mom something fierce, and he knew. I think it was because my dad had gone and because I had returned back home to, back to Texas to go back to work as I had to. I was an essential employee, and that meant he took care of the house for protection. And my mom was never, ever in danger. God forbid someone was ever looking to, come into the house. There's going to be a big, deep woof. It's going to stop them. And yet, you get by that. He was such a sweet dog. Great Danes really are. They think they're lap dogs. They are 150, 160 pound massive dogs that they never get out of puppy stage, truly. They love to be, they're very affectionate. They're not the brightest breeds in the bunch. Great Danes are on average, about as smart as a bag of hammers. If you're looking for intelligence in a dog breed, don't get a Great Dane. But if you're looking for a sweet, lovable, and hilarious dog, you're never going to do better. And I think it's partially because of their size. They are just inherently humorous, funny creatures. They put smiles on people's faces. Even just walking down the road. God, I remember our first one. This was back in, 2006, 2007. We lost her early, 2 years to stomach bloat, which is that's a hard thing for Great Danes. It's a common affliction, unfortunately. Our second Great Dane lived almost 10 years. He was very stout health. I'll get to that one. But the first one, she was just this wonderfully sweet dog. I remember she'd get up on the fireplace on cold mornings and slowly just kind of inch into you. She wasn't trying to be affectionate, though. She was trying to box you out. It was like Charles Barkley of the fireplace in the morning. But no, our first one didn't last very long either. But they put smiles on people's faces. I still remember, we got the first one in rural Texas, and a couple of rednecks. This is San Angelo, Texas. Okay, so it is a city, but it's West Texas. To me, I know Arlen. A lot of people hypothesize on where King of the Hill, the TV show, the cartoon, was supposed to, where Arlen really was in Texas. To me, San Angelo. It really feels like San Angelo, including the sort of redneck people. We got a couple guys in a beat up old truck one time roll down the window and ask, "How big's his turds?" And that was it. That was the entirety of their interest in this dog, because they'd never seen a Great Dane before, and the only question in their minds was, "How big's his turds?" Hilarious. Even to this, we busted out laughing. After the fact, we said, "Pretty big," and I guess that satisfied their curiosity. It was just very funny. Happy to be here. It's a tough moment. Not around much. I'm happy to be here and meet you. Of course, Dan. I appreciate that a lot. Let me check something on Discord here real quick. I'm getting pinged on. No. Make sure nobody's on Twitch. Cool. All right. And then the second one really had a lot of similarities with my father. his name was Buck because we got him in Ohio, so it's short for Buckeye. And he lasted almost 10 years. We got him in 2008, lost him in 2017, I think. So it's 9 years, which is great for a Great Dane. Usually you get maybe 6 or 7 tops. But he very much was he already was kind of DGAF from the beginning, very aloof dog. But there were times where he would have to assert. And this was when we were stationed, my dad was stationed at Offutt Air Force Base. We were on the row because at this point my dad had made GO. And we were walking them one day past, there was an Admiral on that row that had a couple of Dobermans, and those Dobermans were the dogs of the row. They thought they were the big cheese, and they thought they were alpha. And well, we're walking along with Buck one day, and Buck, the Dobermans start getting on Buck's business, and they're starting to be, trying to be aggressive a little bit, and they were off the leash because it was, what are you going to do? Tell the Admiral to put him back on the leash? No, you're not going to do that. So the Dobermans start getting aggressive. All Buck does is let out one very baritone deep woof, and the Dobermans go running. They're like, nope, nope, nope. They back the fuck out. And it was sort of how my dad operated a lot of the time. My dad was a very gregarious person. He was very no nonsense at work, especially. He got shit done. He was a fixer. He would go in and he was about performance. He didn't really give a damn about a lot of the fluff. If people didn't like him, that's okay. But he didn't suffer fools well, is what I would say. He had a very good wit. And with him, it was sort of that same, I don't need to establish the fact that I'm an alpha male, but I am. And if you test me, you will lose. And I can point to any number of times where my dad ended up basically doing that, either in or outside of work. For instance, like PT, right? So my dad had a bum knee. As we stated, cancer nearly took it. They had to graft something on. He basically had no cartilage or ligaments in one of his knees. He'd go out and lead his squadrons and then his groups and then his wing in PT, right? And he would straight up say, it's like, I expect excellence from y'all. Don't just go for 75, which is the minimum to pass for the Air Force. And oh God, they've made it even weaker recently. But he's like, I am a man in my 50s with one good knee, and if I can go out there and ace the PT, I expect your 20-something ass to do so as well, or your 18-year-old ass to go and do so as well. And that is setting the standard, right? Because if you are out there leading by example, there's no excuse for people. People can't point at you and say, oh, you're not doing it, right? It's like it's the CEO. It's a great example is, if the CEO really insists on return to work, he better be in the office longer than anybody else. That was the attitude my dad had. And he was a very good leader. And he was very good at imparting that kind of advice to, obviously, myself and my 2 brothers, but also to the people he worked with. And he was a quiet man. He didn't tell a whole lot of people that he was sick. And a lot of people that were close friends of his, especially during the work years, didn't figure out until after he passed away. That was his choice. That was his way. But the amount of support we got after he passed was nothing short of astounding. And that's the other part I want to talk about with this, right? So I've already talked about be there for the people who are really affected. Save your own emotions for your own time. Be strong. Be the shoulder people cry on, because they remember that and they are grateful. Be stoic, right? You can't control something like cancer. Unfortunately, you are going to die. I'll say that again. You are going to die. I'm going to die. Death is inevitable. You can't control it. What you can do is focus on what you can control, do the best you can to keep yourself healthy and alive, and make the most of every single day you've got. Because, right, November 22nd, 2024 isn't coming again. November 21st, 2024 is gone forever. It's the past. November 23rd, 2024, today's the 23rd. It's never, same thing applies. 23rd is never coming again. And think real hard about how you want the 24th to go. And make the decisions. It's what I say at the end of every broadcast. Make the decisions and take the actions necessary to set yourself up for a better tomorrow, for a better next week, for a better 2025, for a better 2030s, for a better 2040s. And think sometimes about that 10-year exposure. Because that's how you can translate the lessons and the care and the love you were given by all those loved ones into something special. So it's a time to reflect. Make sure I'm checking my notes. Is there anything else I wanted to say? But my biggest takeaway is when you deal with loss, be the shoulder someone else can cry on. Save your emotions for a time when you're alone. Deal with them, of course. But don't burden others with your emotions, especially if you're a man. And especially if you've got a woman in your life that needs a shoulder to cry on. This seems old-fashioned, but it's true. You are to be the shoulder. Sorry, moving the camera a little bit more because it keeps getting glare. You are to be that shoulder to cry on. That's a man's role in this world. And above all else, be grateful. And that's how I am with Atlas. He's a great dog. Did the job. And then some. Helped my mom get over the loss of the love of her life. As for what my mom's going to do next, hopefully get to have her out here in Hawaii not too long from now. That would be really nice. We'll see whether or not it happens, but I'm optimistic. I'm going to go ahead and see if we can pull this forward a bit because it seems like I'm the sun's changing. It's just starting to break through over there. You know what? Stand by. That's a lot better. Yes. That's a little bit better. Anyway, that was really all I had for y'all. What I'm going to do now is pull up my window capture, and I'm going to play a short little slideshow, and that's going to be it. And then, by the way, I will be live again later with a consultation. I'm still taking some notes. I would expect me to be back on the air in about 30 minutes or so with that. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and put a window capture up. All right. That is much too large. Perfect. No, my bad. Sorry, I started at the end. There we go. Hope y'all enjoy. All that you touch, and all that you see, all that you taste, all you feel, and all that you love, and all that you hate, all you distrust, all you save, and all that you give, and all that you deal, and all that you buy, beg, borrow, or steal, and all you create, and all you destroy, and all that you do, and all that you say, and all that you eat, and everyone you meet, and all that you slight, and everyone you fight, and all that is now, and all that is gone, and all that's to come, and everything under the sun is in tune, and the sun is eclipsed by the moon. I'll be back later with the consultation, probably about 30 minutes. Much love, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. If you've experienced loss or anything else, I hope this was helpful.